Kakashi didn't like the logo of this company, which was emblazoned on the wall behind the receptionist. A realistic snake coiled around a simply drawn house and looked poised to attack the viewer with mouth open and fangs showing. Not comforting, especially as he approached the ominous logo. Genma handled introductions with the receptionist, while Kakashi stayed in the middle of the room, taking in every detail, which wasn't much with the white walls and pale blue carpet. There were 6 cameras, but that was to be expected in a place like this. It didn't take long for Orochimaru himself to come out and meet them. Tsunade was right. He looked anything but trustworthy. His long hair, narrow eyes, unnaturally pale skin, and the general air screamed criminal. Kakashi took Tsunade's advice with a grain of salt. Special Agent Hatake, Agent Shiranui, I am Orochimaru's son. My sister told me to expect you. Please follow me. I will show you the tapes. The man didn't even let the agent speak, nor did he offer a hand. Interesting. Kakashi suspected his hand would be moist and limp anyway. Orochimaru brought the pair to a room with a bank of TVs and DVD and Blu-ray players. The snaky bastard had an equally creepy assistant with glasses and white hair. Kabuto, the Uchiha tapes. Kabuto handed Genma a spool of discs. This is everything from the last 6 months. Kabuto wasn't doing his reputation any favors in Kakashi's mind by leering at him. I know you. I keep an eye on our clients' camera systems, and I've noticed you several times. Sometimes you stay all night. Genma looked over at his partner in shock. Shouldn't you be paying that much attention? Spying on our clients' privacy? They are exterior cameras, not exactly private. Enough, Kabuto, Orochimaru said. To Kakashi, you can use our equipment or take those with you. We have copies. With a scowl, Kakashi led Genma out of that snake den. Once in the car, Genma stared at him. I really shouldn't have to justify any of my personal actions to you, Kakashi said as he started the car. We drink together and I've stayed over when I've drunk too much and Sasuke's done the same at my place. I told you, we're close friends. Sounds like too close. I'm not going to argue with you about my personal life. Genma turned away. Sorry. If you didn't have a relationship with him, you would have told us. You're too professional and too worried about Sasuke to hide anything like that. Kakashi drove them back to the headquarters. The first thing the group of 7 agents did when Kakashi and Genma returned to the field office was watch the night Sasuke disappeared. As they were told, Sasuke came home at 6:23 p.m. and then left at 11:18 p.m. alone. The only thing unusual was that he ran to his car and he was carrying a laptop case that was bulging with its contents. He practically tore out of the driveway. Kakashi fast-forwarded through the night, and the next few days even passed when Neji arrived and knocked on the door, and then when Shikamaru and Temari tried to get in and were stopped by one of Orochimaru's employees, grabbing what prints they could before they were chased away. What was the laptop case? Neji asked. I've never seen it. He uses his phone for that kind of thing. I've seen it in his house, but never asked him about it, Kakashi said. It didn't even cross my mind when I was searching his house. Naruto nodded. It's just a laptop case. I never asked him about it either, and I missed it too. If he didn't use it for work, what was in it? Sakura asked. He was obsessed with his family's murder and finding his brother, Kakashi said. Considering any information about it wasn't anywhere else, I'd say he kept it in that bag. Do you think he found a lead? You think he found Itachi and... Itachi... We don't know that he's dead, but I've always wondered why Sasuke wasn't killed too. I wouldn't put it past a man who murdered his own mother. But Itachi did spare him, committed the murders while Sasuke was away. He disappeared only after damning suspicion fell on him. On the other hand, it was no secret Sasuke wanted to find him. He could have been lured out by a lead and attacked by anyone. But the problem is we don't know if we're investigating a murder, kidnapping, or a willful disappearance. What about the analysis of his computer, his email and his phone records? Something had to prompt his leaving. Nothing, Shikomoto said. Phone calls were all you, Neji, Naruto, restaurant, and our general number. Email was a bust too. Bills, normal spam, half a dozen newsletters, and few emails between the three of you and Sasuke. We only scanned a few that were within our time frame of about 10 days. There was nothing at all. But it seems he regularly deleted older emails. We're trying to recover some of them. However, he didn't use national services like Gmail or Hotmail, so trying to find copies of the server is difficult. His work emails, of course, are through our own servers. Nothing but work there. His personal email is through his family's company, Sharingan. We'll need another warrant to get them to let us into their servers. He was also anal about security. All his temporary internet files, cookies, browsing history, even searches were erased. He wasn't logged onto Google, Yahoo, Bing, or anything else, so we can't find out anything that way. We're trying to get any information about where his IP address might have been recorded, but he has a VPN program, so that might not show us anything. As for files, he has several that are password protected. Those have the names of his dead relatives and such. We're trying to crack the passwords. According to the dates in the properties, nothing was changed in the last month, though they were accessed over the last few weeks. There's nothing else at all that point to any reason he might have left his house that night. I think he erased everything concerning why he left. I don't think he wanted to be followed. Kakashi was brooding. He felt abandoned. Why didn't Sasuke at least mention something to him? Why didn't he ask for help? Kakashi would have cut off his arm to help him. Naruto was feeling something similar. Neji searched Sasuke's desk. He had more Sharingan stationery than FBI, and there was a dark blue coffee mug with the Uchiha family crest and a small red tori. That was all the personal things Sasuke had on his desk. Datebooks had gone the way of the pager, as had Rolodexes, so there was nothing to find. Maybe if they had Sasuke's phone. Then she staved off his misery and grabbed everything pertaining to the cases and hauled them up to the task force room they had commandeered. Kakashi and Genma were off interviewing the rest of their colleagues to see if anyone else in the bureau had noticed anything, while Neji, Naruto, and Sakura pored over the cases. After 3 hours of bending over the files, Naruto sat back and rubbed at his aching shoulders and rotated his neck, wincing. Sakura's chair scraped the floor, moving from the table and behind Naruto. Her hands aligned on his shoulders, her thumbs rubbing into tight knots immediately. Naruto's eyes fluttered closed and a small sigh escaped his lips. Neji frowned, trying to resume his search, but easily distracted by the pair. Damn, Sakura, that feels amazing, Naruto moaned, rotating his neck again. Don't stop. Sakura laughed and kissed the crown of his unruly blonde hair. Neji bit his lip and released an inward sigh. His eyes closed, images of Sasuke blossoming in his mind. The Uchiha was sweaty, his body sticky from one release already. His hand had raised to his brow and a look of longing in his eyes. More, he mewed. Damn, Neji, that feels amazing. Don't stop. Naruto groaned loudly. Damn, that's the spot! Damn, that's the spot! Sasuke shrieked, arching off the bed as Neji removed his entire length just to push his length back inside his partner again. You like that? Neji asked. Sasuke nodded his head vigorously with a groan. A little bit harder? Naruto asked. Yeah, that's better. Harder. Yeah, that's better. Sasuke sighed, parting his legs further and allowing Neji deeper. Neji said a fast pace, his hips rocking into the Uchiha harshly. The sound of the headboard rocking against the wall spurred him further. Right there, Sakura, Naruto whispered on the end of a groan. Sasuke was a panting mess, his breathing deep and accented by heady moans. Right there, Neji, he shrieked again. Whatever you want, Naruto, Sakura laughed. Whatever you want, Sasuke, Neji breathed. His breath ghosted over Sasuke's chest, his lips attaching themselves to one of his pert nipples. He grazed his teeth over the distended flesh, biting and tugging. Sasuke grasped his hands at Neji's shoulders to push him away. What the hell, Neji? Sasuke demanded angrily. What the hell, Sakura? Naruto demanded. Neji opened his eyes, his head jerking to look at the pair, his eyes landing on a taut ass in his face. He cleared his throat and shifted in his seat, causing unwanted friction in his groin. He was hard already from his little daydream. Neji wanted to smack his head on the desk, but that was an undignified response for a Hyuga. He tightened his legs over his heated groin, willing it to go away. Beads of sweat gathered on his brow, and he felt a trickle down the right side of his face. Thankfully, it was the opposite side from the pair. Sakura laughed. That's what you get for making such lewd sounds, Naruto. No one wants to hear that. Naruto rubbed at his throbbing head, holding the tender spot Sakura had just smacked. Well, next time, don't rub my shoulders like that, he grumbled. Yeah, Sakura said, waving him off. Neji shifted on his chair again, his eyes fleeting over Naruto's ass still in his face, and casting a shadow over the open file before him. Composing himself the only way a Hyuga knew how, and even the Uchiha would admire, Neji sat straighter in his chair and looked straight ahead without a hint of embarrassment. Do you mind getting your behind out of my face? You're blocking my light. Oh, Naruto mumbled, moving away from Neji. Sorry, I didn't realize. Obviously. Neji eyed Naruto from the corner of his eye, watching him reclaim his seat and the file he'd been examining. A dark look passed his eyes. Sakura cocked her head slightly to the side, eyeing Neji closely. Could he... She snorted and moved back to her seat, dismissing the thought. No one would think of Naruto that way. No one but Sasuke. Neji recomposed himself. All of that was just a fantasy. As far as Neji knew, Sasuke hadn't slept with anyone and wasn't even interested in sex with him, Johnny Depp, or Mila Kunis. The man was a monk. A damn sexy monk. But as asexual as a jellyfish. Shikamaru got the contact information for Karin, Kusa, and Suigetsu Hozuki by late afternoon. Kakashi grabbed it and was out of the building before Naruto could volunteer to do the legwork. First to Karin Kusa, who was stalking Sasuke. She wasn't the crazed woman Kakashi had expected. She owned a high-end perfume shop downtown. And he did recognize her. He hadn't given her a thought when he happened to see her when he was out with Sasuke, but now he realized he had seen her several times. An assistant came over to help them. Looking for something for your girlfriends? She asked sweetly. We're actually here to see Miss Kusa, Genma answered, showing his ID. She looked toward her boss with worry. Karin gestured her over and handed her customer over to her. How can I help you? She asked. Kakashi showed his ID. Her eyes went wide and her face fell. Sasuke? I haven't bothered him in a while. Sasuke didn't send us. Why else would his colleagues be paying me a visit? Worry laced her voice. She was beginning to suspect something worse than harassment. He's missing. Karin began to tremble. That might be a sign of guilt, but Kakashi was already certain she had nothing to do with Sasuke's disappearance. Do you know of anyone who would want to hurt him? Kakashi asked. No, not at all. I've had a crush on him since college, but I've never known anyone to hate him. Just doing our due diligence. Where were you Wednesday night? I was at the gala at the opera that night. I sent Sasuke an invitation to be my +1, but he said no. He didn't say if he had any other plans. When did you arrive and leave? I arrived around 7 and left after 1. Kakashi handed her his card. If you think of anything that might help us find Sasuke, give me a call. You don't know of any reason he might have disappeared on his own, do you? No. Thank you. When they were outside, Genma asked, "You don't think she had anything to do with it?" "I've seen that reaction before. She was scared for Sasuke, not for herself. Anyway, that's an easy alibi to confirm." Okay, next is the auto mechanic. A few blocks away, they parked on the street outside a body shop. Inside, they found a young man sucking on a straw in a water bottle. "FBI," he said before they could introduce themselves. "More bullet-riddled cars for me to patch up?" He seemed excited by the prospect. "No," Kakashi said, showing his ID. "You're acquainted with Sasuke Uchiha." "Yep. He had me start on that Jag of his, but then he bought the caddy. Still paid me for the full repairs, then turned around and sold it to me. Demanded more for such a good repair work. Asshole. Knew him from college. He was a criminal justice and I was business. He gave you a reference?" "He's gone missing and we were hoping you could help us track him down." "Odd way of putting in for a missing person. No, I haven't seen him since I bought his Jag. Damn, that was nearly a year ago." "Do you know anyone who would want to harm Sasuke?" "Nah. He's an arrogant asshole and a cold prick. But beyond just rubbing people the wrong way, no. People just don't want to be around him." Genma was surprised to see a smirk on Kakashi's face. "Any other friends we might talk to?" he asked. "Like I said, he didn't have a lot of friends. Oh, there was Jugo. He went to school with us. He was even quieter than Sasuke. That crazy bitch Garin used to stalk him, but he wasn't afraid of her. Oh, and he had this blonde friend from high school. He had a stupid name. I remember Sasuke telling me that it means fish cakes. Honestly, I thought they were banging. And there was a long-haired guy who I know wanted to bang him, but I don't know if he still knows those people since I don't see him that often." Kakashi felt a stab of jealousy. He knew fish cakes was Naruto, and the idea that he was having sex with Sasuke at any point angered him. The long-haired man was probably Neji. Too many people around Sasuke wanted into his pants. "Thanks," Genma said. "We've already talked to all those people." "Sorry I can't help. Hope he's okay." "Give me a call if you think of anything that can help us," Kakashi said as he gave him his card. "Your boy has an odd bunch of friends," Genma said once they were outside again. "He was awfully blasé about a friend's disappearance," Kakashi said. "It doesn't seem like he cares about anything." "I want some watch on him, just in case." There was no more legwork, so Kakashi and Genma joined Neji, Naruto, and Sakura in searching through the case files. Kakashi pushed back from the table and sighed. "I need a break." He pulled out his beloved erotica and started reading. Timori snuck a peek at the cover. "I think you need to get laid, Kakashi-sensei," she said. "Too bad Sasuke's not around to help with that," Genma said, chewing on his toothpick. The loud sound of a chair being shoved back was Genma's only warning before he was grabbed by his front collar and shoved against the wall, knocking his own chair over. He was terrified, looking down into the furious, mixed-matched eyes of his partner. His toothpick fell from his mouth. "Don't you ever insult Sasuke," Kakashi threatened. Genma saw Naruto not far behind Kakashi, also looking at him angrily. "How dare you insinuate he's a slut?" Naruto growled. "Whoa, it was a joke! I'm sorry!" Kakashi added a little more pressure before he let Genma go. Still angry, he left the room. Naruto followed. Genma rubbed his chest. Touchy. Sakura's eyes were narrowed, but she didn't attack him. Neji didn't look happy either. "It's not even near accurate," Neji said, feeling he had to defend his partner's honor in his absence. "He's pretty asexual. I think he's a virgin. He's never shown any interest in anyone, male or female." Sakura turned away. Quite honestly, Genma was more sure than ever that Kakashi and Sasuke were shagging. Naruto went back to his desk. The implication that Sasuke was a slut or that he was sleeping with Kakashi pissed him off. He knew Sasuke better than anyone. He knew him from elementary school, was there for him when his family was killed, went through the academy with him. Neji and Sakura were around too, but he and Sasuke were best friends. Sasuke had a rough patch when he was 16, 1 year after the massacre. Sasuke fell apart. Concerned for him on the anniversary, Naruto went over to the small house Sasuke bought shortly after having the partially burned house where it all happened torn down. Naruto let himself in with the key Sasuke gave him and found Sasuke in bed sleeping between crying fits. Naruto gently shook Sasuke's shoulder. "Hey, Sasuke, you alright?" No." Sasuke turned over. Naruto climbed in behind Sasuke and put an arm over him. Even if Itachi hadn't died that night along with the rest of their family, Sasuke had still lost him. He lost his entire family. He was left completely alone in the world. "I'm here for you, you know," Naruto whispered next to Sasuke's ear, holding him tighter. Sasuke gave a grunt of acknowledgement and buried his face in his pillow, his body shaking from more tears. Naruto rubbed his thumb along Sasuke's arm, but Sasuke shook it away. "Go away, Dobe." "Please, don't push me away." "I said go away." Naruto looked at Sasuke, his body racked with heavy sobbing. With a sigh, he climbed from the bed, pausing in the doorway momentarily before making his way to Sasuke's kitchen to make tea. He made 2 cups and found a tray to take them to Sasuke's room. Sasuke, looking haggard with red, puffy eyes, was suddenly in the living room like in a horror movie. Naruto jumped, dropping the empty wooden tray. "Damn it, Sasuke!" Naruto put his hand to his heart to feel it hammering. He suddenly swore off horror movies, a promise he wouldn't keep after a month. "I thought I told you to go away," Sasuke grumbled. "You can't get rid of me that easily, Deme." Sasuke snorted. "I'll give you $500 to leave." "You can't buy me," Naruto growled. Sasuke's sudden private wealth had given him an illusion of power at times. Sasuke came closer to see what Naruto was doing in his kitchen. "Not even for ramen?" Naruto stopped, tempted, but shook his head. "Not even for a lifetime supply of ramen." Sasuke growled low in his throat, but grimaced a second later. His throat was raw from the amount of crying he had done already that day. The heavy tears that were welling in his eyes even when he wasn't sobbing fell down his cheeks. "Go home, Dobe. There's nothing for you to do here." "Of course there is. We could sit and watch movies." "I don't want to." "Then we can play video games." "I don't own any."
"Then we can read."
"Go home, Naruto. There's no reason for you to be here. Go home to your parents." Naruto grimaced, his fists curling at his side.
"I'm not leaving."
"Then I will make you leave." Sasuke took a swing and narrowly missed Naruto's dodging face.
"Damn it, Deme! I'm just trying to be a good friend!"
Naruto shouted. "I don't need you. I don't need anyone. Leave!" He took another swing, but Naruto dodged again.
"Leave!"
Sasuke roared, angered by his near misses.
"I can't do that!"
Naruto shouted back. Finally, Sasuke's fist connected to Naruto's cheek, sending the blonde to the floor, clutching his face and wincing in pain. Sasuke stopped, frozen in shock over what he had just done. It was a full 6 seconds before he dropped in front of Naruto and clutched Naruto's face in his hands, tilting it left and right. He kept muttering, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." Naruto grabbed Sasuke's hand in his, tears in his own eyes.
"I know,"
he whispered. "Why did you come here today?" Sasuke choked out, his already swollen and puffy eyes swelling with tears again.
"I didn't want you to be alone. Not today. Not ever. I wanted you to know that I care."
Sasuke bowed his head, shaken from his racking sobs. He fell into Naruto, hugging him tightly, but it was more than that. He brought his lips against Naruto's, desperate for contact. Naruto was stunned, but it didn't stop him from reciprocating. Sasuke's lips were wet, salty, and feverish. Sasuke finally pulled away, flushed and winded, and staring at Naruto in a way he had never done before. He was vulnerable, open, scared. He leaned back on his haunches, his breathing slowly coming under control. When everything was quiet, Sasuke finally admitted, "I want to kill him. I want him dead for what he's done." Naruto jerked away, stunned.
You can't mean that. He's your brother.
"And that's why I will kill him. I don't know how long it will take, but I will track him down, and he won't get away with this. He won't get away with what he did to them. Did to me." There was such a dark look in Sasuke's eyes that Naruto shivered. It was hate. Pure, unadulterated hate. He truly hated Itachi for what he'd done.
You should let the FBI handle him. I'm sure they'll find him soon anyway.
I'll be ready if they don't.
How do you plan?
Naruto paused. Was he really sitting on the floor of Sasuke's kitchen talking with him about killing his brother? "I'm going to join the FBI. I'll hunt him down myself, and when I see him, justice will be swift." Naruto swallowed nervously, thinking fast.
I'll join you then.
"Huh?" Sasuke broke out of his dark thoughts.
I'll join you. The FBI, I mean. We can do it together. And when you find Itachi, I'll be there with you.
"Dobe," Sasuke laughed. "You don't want to go into law enforcement."
Neither did you.
"I won't let you follow me."
I don't think you have a choice. You're stuck with me. I didn't know what to do after high school anyway.
"Dobe."
Deme.
Sasuke sighed and closed his eyes, sitting next to Naruto heavily. "I can't let him get away with this."
I know,
Naruto said. He grabbed Sasuke's hand and squeezed, offering a small smile to his best friend. Konohamaru decided to call him at that moment. The Lollipop Guild song from The Wizard of Oz grated from Naruto's pocket. Sasuke scoffed. How childish.
You have the standard ring. You're dull and unimaginative.
He answered his phone.
Hey, Konohamaru, I'm sort of busy. All day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Hanging out with a brat? Sasuke scoffed.
He's the grandson of the guy who investigated your case.
Yeah. He's still a brat.
He wants to join the FBI too and become director just like his grandfather.
Naruto gripped Sasuke's hand tighter.
Anything you want to do today?
No, I especially don't want to visit the mausoleum. After that kiss and being a hormonal teenage boy, Naruto thought there was something they could do, but knew that wasn't a good idea.
Let's order in and watch the FBI story,
Naruto suggested.
In light of our new career goal, it seems like a good idea.
I prefer Silence of the Lambs. Make sure whatever you order for me is drowning in tomatoes, and don't wake me up if I fall asleep. No one else came to check on Sasuke that day. No one else had a key to his house. Naruto was the only person who helped Sasuke keep it together. It was soon after that they started sleeping together. Behind his desk on the second floor of the FBI headquarters, Naruto leaned back in his chair, touching his cheek. He could still recall with clarity the stinging from the force of Sasuke's punch. Sasuke's blood loss that day still disturbed him. He'd known Sasuke for years. At the time of the murder, Sasuke was pulling away from Itachi, but just 2 years before, Sasuke had idolized Itachi, worshipped him. Everything was Itachi said this, Itachi did that, Itachi recommended this, Itachi told me about that. Itachi was the center of Sasuke's universe. Then he vowed to murder him. Sasuke never lost that new darkness to him. Sasuke even bragged to Naruto, the only person he ever admitted his murder's intent to, that he had fooled the psychologist who interviewed them, all before deeming them fit to be FBI agents. So he asked what I'd do if I saw Itachi again. I said, I'm still really angry, but I'd rather arrest him than kill him because I want him to endure the humiliation of a trial and the hellish life of being in prison to his dying day. The doctor totally bought it. Naruto had gotten chills. He never spoke up because in every other aspect of his life, Sasuke was sane. He hoped if Sasuke ever did see his brother face to face, he really wouldn't be able to pull the trigger. Kakashi ate a quick meal at his favorite Chinese place, then went home depressed and unsatisfied. He stripped and pulled on a pair of pajama pants and lay down on his bed. He grabbed his hand exercise gripper from the nightstand and used it in his left hand as he thought. An old habit whenever he needed to think. His parents were dead. His childhood best friend was dead. His first partner and friend was killed in line of duty. If he lost Sasuke was all he had. Kakashi was one of the top hand-to-hand specialists in the FBI and was asked to train some of the incoming agents, including Sasuke, Naruto, Sakura, Neji, and Shikamaru. They were halfway through the 12-week course when Sasuke hung back one day. "Kakashi, a minute?" Sasuke asked. "I like the fact you never call me sensei. Makes me feel old." "You are old. There goes any affection you've accrued." "That's unfortunate since I did have a request. I saw in your bio that you're a kendo champion. I want you to train me." "You want me to train you in swordsmanship?" "Yes, sensei." "You can leave off the sensei bit, although I wouldn't mind Shisho." Kakashi smiled wistfully at the thought of being called master, especially by his prideful young student. "I won't do it for free." "Name your price." "What do you want to learn?" "My ancestors were samurai and ninja, and I've always loved swords. I have a small collection. I would feel like less of a disappointment if I could at least wield one." "Why would you feel you were forgive me. It's not my place to pry into such matters." He considered the young man. "All right, I'll train you. To learn, read. To know, write. To master, teach." "Hindu proverb," Sasuke said. Kakashi smiled and nodded out of respect. Sasuke and his class finished training a little over a month after the pair began their private classes. There was a little more than a certificate handing out ceremony that took all of 5 minutes. Kakashi wasn't able to talk to Sasuke since he had Guy crying all over him, pronouncing what a wonderful thing the springtime of youth was, and how good it was to see these young agents blossoming. He saw Sasuke talking with Neji and Naruto and saw him miming gagging at overhearing Guy going on and on. He sent Sasuke a text a few minutes later. "Congrats. Dinner rather than a lesson tonight?" "Sounds great. 7?" Kakashi smiled. "Yeah, I'll pick you up at your house." Kakashi showed up at 7:05. He came up to knock on Sasuke's door. Sasuke was surprised when he opened his door. "You're early." "I'm 5 minutes late." "You're always at least 10 minutes late. I'll be out in a moment." He left the door open, but Kakashi sauntered back to his car. He stopped to look at Sasuke's brand new Cadillac. Sasuke joined him. "I thought you were a Jag man," Kakashi commented. "My last one was a Jaguar, but I just really like the body style of this one. I also love the glittering black diamond paint." "Matches your eyes," Kakashi thought, but then mentally slapped himself for that thought. Kakashi took him to an upscale restaurant. "I want to get this part over with and get this uncomfortable box out of my jacket," Kakashi said after they ordered. He took out a box and handed it to Sasuke. "Just a little congratulations for making it through the training and also for sticking with kendo." Sasuke opened it. A 10-inch katana letter opener with a sheath and a wooden display. Kakashi smiled at his own whimsical gift. Sasuke smiled, though his eyes conveyed some mock annoyance. God, he's beautiful when he smiles. Kakashi again mentally slapped himself. Kakashi was never blind to how beautiful Sasuke was no matter what, but he felt a sudden desire to possess Sasuke in that moment. "Thanks," Sasuke said, playfully unappreciative. Kakashi smiled, glad his gift had the desired effect. They had a pleasant dinner, and Kakashi drove Sasuke home. He parked in Sasuke's driveway behind the brand new caddy. "I kind of wanted to talk to you about something serious," Kakashi said. "Come in for a nightcap?" "Thank you." Sasuke led him inside and fixed them both drinks, his own larger than Kakashi's, since Kakashi was driving home. Kakashi slipped off his shoes and sat in the black leather armchair and Sasuke on the black leather sofa. I wanted to bring this up for a while, Kakashi began. I don't think you remembered me. From before I joined the bureau? Yeah. No, I'm sorry, I don't. Thought as much. I'm sure you would have said something. I was a rookie when your family... I was on the scene that night, and I was one of the agents who talked to you. Sasuke was looking at Kakashi, but his eyes grew vacant as he searched his memories. A sad smile crossed his face. I don't remember a lot of agents around at the beginning, but I do remember you now. You comforted me when I started crying that night. I don't know how I could not have connected the white hair. I'm glad you do remember me. I tried to keep track of you, hoping you'd bounce back, and you did. I'm proud of you. I was hesitant to mention it because I didn't want to bring up bad memories. That's okay. Not like I don't think of that night every day of my life. You had a partner, a woman. Brown hair. She was very kind too. Where's she? Rinnohara. She died in the line of duty. I'm sorry to bring it up and that she died. Kakashi smiled. Then we're even. You know, it was all of you that influenced me to join the FBI. Thank you. You are an excellent agent. I'm glad to have helped you choose this path. Kakashi stood and Sasuke showed him to the door. Kakashi slipped back on his shoes and was just turning to say goodnight when he suddenly found the slightly shorter man pressing into his chest, hugging him. Kakashi hugged him back. It reminded him a little of the night when Sasuke came home to find part of his house smoldering and his family killed. But it wasn't just that. He liked having Sasuke close. He was falling in love with him. But he did nothing about it for another week until Sasuke grew frustrated and tried to take a few shots at Kakashi during Gendo training. He had feared that his confession would change something in their relationship, but it didn't seem so. Sasuke could still be a brat. They couldn't always meet in the training rooms at the field office, so Sasuke's manicured and otherwise unused backyard served as their dojo. Sasuke attacked Kakashi when he failed to land a single hit and Kakashi was pointing out his every flaw. Of course, Kakashi was easily able to dodge or turn away Sasuke's shinai. What irked Kakashi was not the attempt to land a hit. It was the targets Sasuke was trying to hit were not the correct ones. The first lesson is the 8 targets, Kakashi said. He listed the targets as he hit them on Sasuke's body, thankfully encased in Gendo armor. Men. Kakashi brought his shinai straight down on top of Sasuke's head. It wasn't a hard hit, but it wasn't a gentle tap either. Migi men. He hit the right side of Sasuke's head. Hidari men. He hit the left side of his head. Kote, his right wrist. Hidari kote, his left wrist. Migi do, right hip with a fair amount of force. Hidari do, left hip. Tsuki. He poked Sasuke high in the chest, hard, with the rounded point of the shinai. Now, allow me to show you how you should have attacked. Sasuke raised his shinai to defend himself, and he managed to block several of the strikes. Now with the targets fresh in his mind, he was able to intercept them, except for 3 hits. His right arm, his left hip where the armor shifted out of place, and a thrust to his armored chest which pushed Sasuke away. Better, Kakashi said as he stood down and bowed to end the match. Sasuke also bowed formally. Then Sasuke let out a litany of bilingual curses as he hobbled inside to his sofa. Sasuke had no shame about taking off his hakama pants in front of Kakashi as he stripped his armor. Kakashi took the briefest moment to admire the toned, hairless white legs. He pulled off his own armor and crouched in front of his student who was examining the red mark on his thigh. That will be a nasty bruise by morning, Kakashi said. You'll get used to those. My sensei gave me quite a few. Still does. Hurts like a son of a bitch. There is a reason they use shinai in corporal punishment. Kakashi took Sasuke's thigh in his hands and pressed his thumbs into the red mark. Sasuke hissed. Are you trying to make it hurt worse? Making sure it's not broken. I think it's fine. A shinai really can't do that kind of damage to a bone as large as femur. I said. Kakashi really meant to just check the bone a little further by running his hand up and down with some pressure, but he enjoyed the feeling of the young man's skin, and he realized that there was a bulge forming in front of Sasuke's boxers. He grew aware that he was between the legs of a very sexy, pantless young man. Neither could hide their blushes with their pale skin. They locked eyes.